We can't say the future without AI. I mean, there's no way around it. 50% of workers now believe AI is going to improve their experience. When I come into the meeting room, I need a way to incorporate my AI with what's going on in the meeting. It's almost a bring your own AI type of a concept. Most of what we do in our day-to-day is going to change significantly.
Hear the latest AV trends and predictions in this episode of Crestron's Smarter Spaces podcast on your preferred podcast platform.
Welcome back to another episode of AV Career Masterminds. So excited for you to watch and for you to listen. I have an amazing guest today. As you know, we talk to people about how to find a job in the AV industry, people that are looking for a job. We've talked to recruiters at a actual company. So now I have Heidi on, which is so exciting. So Heidi, please introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Yeah. So nice to meet everybody. I'm Heidi Garrison. I'm with RGR Partners. I am an external agency. What that means is I'm contracted nationally with tons of different audiovisual integrators, manufacturers, architecture and engineering firms, technology, electrical contractors, the whole gamut, right? And we kind of specialize in, helping everybody broker new conversations with talent that's out there that's looking.
Awesome. So then how did you get to do recruiting, right? Basically, because you are a recruiter. Let's just say it, which is fine, which is one of the reasons why I am so excited to have you on, is because when we hear that word, for people that are looking, it can be scary. Right? It can be scary. It can be intimidating. It can be, oh my God, like there's so many things that go on. So before we kind of get into that, how did you get to do this? Like what was Heidi in a previous life?
Well, I don't think anybody ever wakes up and says, I'm going to be a recruiter. So I'll throw that out there. In another lifetime, I pursued the hair and makeup industry in California. I got to work on a lot of really cool jobs, and then I just fell flat on my face into recruiting, right? I knew somebody who was like, hey, you're so good with people. You connect with people. I want to introduce you to my boss. And so I had that meeting and I walked out with a invitation to work there, literally.
Awesome.
But that was in software technology recruiting. And although it just wasn't something I felt super passionate about, I'm not a coder. I don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. And so I did that for a while. And then I was approached by another firm that did security, and they wanted to build an AV division. And so I saw that as an opportunity after I started to look into it to kind of dive deeper into what is AV, because that's also something that a lot of people don't know about, right? It's an unforeseen industry that's actually super cool. And so I got my start in AV, went to my first InfoComm, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is another world. And it's cool, right? Because there's musicians and there's people who are engineers and there's all this cool product that we underappreciate. And so I fell into AV and I fell into people, and now I'm stuck here.
As most of us are, right? Because regardless of the side of it that you're in, and when I say and talk about audiovisual, it's this huge umbrella, because you can't segment it into certain things. It's this huge umbrella, and you did something and you showed up at InfoComm, and that's usually where people are like, you either love it or you get scared because it's so massive.
I think it's one of those things where when you look around and you start to really understand that when you walk into a bank or a school or a mall or a hotel, and all of a sudden it's all pieced together, and you can see that, wow, that column over there that's got a fish tank on it, who put that there? Who designed that? Who made that, right? You either, like you said, you either fall into thinking that's really cool, or you're like, okay, that's something I don't really have an appreciation for. And that's okay. For me, I was like, this is really cool.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that do this that should be recognized, and maybe I can help out companies that need some people to do that. And what I found is when having conversations with people, specifically in this industry, a lot of people get their start in very different industries. And then they all come together and everybody builds these really cool brands together. And
Right.
it became more about the people and less about the technology, but the technology had a flair. So that's what I found interesting, you know.
Yeah. So, in doing this and talking to different people, whether they are people that are looking, whether they are people, as you said, that you are contracted with to help find employees for them, what is your process? Because in talking with you and just seeing what you do as far as posting on social and what you're looking for, to me it seems a little different than what I've experienced even in the past of getting the email from I've looked at your LinkedIn profile, some random like I've looked at your LinkedIn profile and I have a so what do you do to understand who the person might be or the company might be? Because I think, like I said, I think you do it just a little bit different than what I've personally experienced and what I see going on online.
So yeah, I think it's definitely twofold. I think that what makes us a little bit different is when we are in the trenches and we're, let's say, at a trade show and I'm meeting with clients and you're face to face with people and you're shaking hands with people and you're getting to experience what they're passionate about, what they might compliment, what they might look for. On the client side, I truly try and get to know leaders, right? Because people want to work for good people.
Right.
A job's a job, a position's a position. And so therefore, if you can understand what the position is, but you know the people behind it, I can sell that, right? I can get people excited about the people that I engage with. On the candidate side, I want to know you, right? I want to know where you came from. Did you get your start in car stereos? Were you passionate about selling in the education space? Like, what was it about you that got you here? Because that tells me a lot about who you're going to compliment in a company form, right? And so when I'm getting to understand candidates, yes, of course, there's always going to be positions in the back of my head that I'm, archiving to see if this person might be a good fit in a matchmaking process. However, it is so much more about finding a qualified person who's amazing, who's got a story, who wants more, and then being able to go back and collaborate with my clients and say, hey, I know you're looking for this, but in the interim, I found this, and making and brokering those conversations. So, sometimes in what I do, there can be specifics of identifying specific skills, credentials for certain roles, but there's so much more of a marriage that goes on behind finding people for people, and I think that that's what makes us a little different is I don't want to call you and just pitch you. If you're a project manager and, I happen to have a project manager role, there's so much more that goes into it. If I call you and I do some more discovery and I find that your passions and your motivations aren't to be that anymore. Maybe you want to move into operations. Maybe you haven't had the chance. I want to identify what you want to do and help you take that next step instead of just trading apples for apples,
It's so in what you're saying, it sounds like even though that person, say, by a referral or what you see of them on their LinkedIn profile or what like you said, might be listed project manager, project manager, project manager. That's all they've done. But if they come to you and if you call them and they say, I'm not looking for that project management role, I want to get out of this, you're still continuing that conversation with them, right? To understand what it is, who they are, what they need.
Oh, absolutely. I think that, those are the funnest projects, I call them, right? Because another thing that I'm able to do with my team, because we've got some full-time recruiters as well, is we all collaborate. There is no like, we're going to step on each other's toes. We want the best for people, right? And so, if we have somebody that communicates that they are doing something, I've done X, Y, and Z, but I want to do X, Y, and Z, but nobody will give me the chance because they need me in this role, right?
Right.
We can market to our industry and say, hey, we've got an opportunity to work with this person who's got all these credentials, who's done all of this, but they're ready to take a next step. And they want to talk about getting into this type of position. They want to help be in management. They want to take all their years of everything they've learned and mentor others. And when we share that with our clients on a large net, right, it allows principals of companies, CEOs of companies, decision makers to be able to read something and say, okay, I've got an opportunity. This person looks highly qualified. They've been doing this, but they want to do this. Do we want to have a chat with them? Like, should we pass this up? And then it really creates opportunistic hires. And those are what are really amazing, because then you've changed someone's life.
Well, and I think you've changed somebody's life and you've changed a company, right? Because
totally.
The company may also not think. And so understanding that you're engaging with the company, you're not just going, okay, you're going to hire me to fill X position and that's all I'm going to do. This is all I'm focused on, right? You want to learn who the company is. You want to learn who the person is, right? Which is amazing, which I think from the world that we're in right now, and with everybody that is laid off and losing their jobs and transitioning and trying to go through does my resume match up with what this job description says so that I can get to the interview, right? Just because that's what everybody wants to do, is we want to talk to somebody.
Sure.
Don't just look at me at a piece of paper. So being able to do that, I think, is amazing. And I think we have probably, most of us may have had bad experiences, right? But your company is taking it to the next level, I feel, and making everybody a human. Yeah. And not just paper.
Well, and I think, we recently had a situation, one of a hire that's either just started last week. A lot of people are also not comfortable talking about themselves in the form of a resume. And so, some people are like, do I need a resume writer? Do I need to use AI? How can I make this better? It's hard to put your skills on paper for most people. And so right. In terms of agency, yes, there's many agencies out there that look, they put people in front of people and just hope that they're going to make a hire. And right. I've seen that firsthand, and that makes me sad, right? Like, yeah. I always truly want to lead with helping people and helping others, but there are agencies out there that do that. So my advice to people is vet your recruiter, right?
Yeah.
What are the clients you work with? What's your experience been? Look at their recommendations on LinkedIn. What are people saying about them? What's their reputation, right? And then get paired with someone who's a consultant, because it changes things. And we had a situation just last week. One of my recruiters in Texas had a person who just didn't have a lot of meat and potatoes on their resume. But when she spoke to this individual, she got excited about this person. She was like, you're under, you're not speaking about yourself the way you should.
Not selling yourself,
like,
right?
Come on. Like, and so I watched this person, this recruiter of mine, tell a story before the hiring manager opened the resume. And he wrote back and was like, wow, you really put a lot of thought into what you said about this person, because if I would have looked at the resume, I'm being honest with you, I wouldn't have seen what you see. Had a conversation with him, had a second follow-up interview. And when it's the right person, what's this lengthy 4-month process? Like, that takes the wind out of everybody's sails, right?
Everybody.
And it's daunting, and it's grueling, and it's, am I in or am I out? Mm-hmm. Was it good feedback? Was it bad? And so, what I always teach my recruiters is we have to be able to communicate those types of things. Obviously, delicately, if it's hard feedback to take, right?
Right.
But we're here to help you guys take value from the services that we provide our clients. And if we're not doing that, then we are recruiters.
And that's what I love, is because that's my whole thing, right? I say we're all more than words on a piece of paper, because like you said, people have a hard time selling themselves. People have a hard time, highlighting the things when you're doing it. And the fact that you're able to and you want to sit and have the conversations with the individuals that are looking, then you're helping sell them, because not everybody wants to do that, which is amazing.
Well, I was thinking too, one of the things that what I notice about professionals who are in the trenches every day working, right? What happens when you find yourself in a position looking for a job? There's so many different platforms. Do I look on LinkedIn Jobs? Do I look on Monster? Do I look on ZipRecruiter? Do I look on the ad that I just heard on the station? And so it's really hard to see things from a bird's eye view.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really hard to see or know about opportunities that exist, because just like it's hard for professionals to find those, it's also hard for companies to take the time to sort through the minute they put a job posting up and they get 200 resume submissions. Somebody has to filter through. Now, there are algorithms and things that can help identify key things, but someone somewhere is going to fall through the cracks if they did not write their resume for that specific thing. And so, when you're partnered with a good external partner, and there's tons, right? Like, I'm the first to say, I wish everybody would just use us for all the things.
Of course.
But I will always be fair and say, I know my level of what I look for myself and what I hold myself to. And there's other people out there that do that as well. And so my hope is that people who are looking for employment can partner so it's less scary.
Yeah.
Because it sucks.
It does. Well, and that's like, and kind of why I started doing this podcast was I saw when I was looking the struggle. And like you said, for the first, couple applications that I sent out, whether it was through LinkedIn or whether it was through companies that I wanted to potentially go work for through their website, I didn't change my resume, and I couldn't understand why I'm like, I've been in this industry for a long time, and why am I not getting a phone call? What? Well, then it got so tedious to where you have to change your resume. And for people, that becomes deflating. That becomes very time consuming, which isn't a bad thing. But when you think about if you are unemployed, trying to find something, constantly sitting down to change your resume gets extremely stressful. And who wants to go through that? Because then you're just like, I'll just take whatever I can get. Why even try it?
Well, and I think too, there's so much of a story that we can't put in bullet points on a resume, right? Why did this person transition from this vertical to this vertical? Whether it was residential AV into commercial AV, like if you are partnered with someone who understands that, they can explain to someone, hey, they've done all of this and they can do this and they want to make the leap, right? And you having someone advocate for you can be very helpful, because like you said, how do you know what you don't know, and how do you get in front of the right people, right? Once you've put your resume into the abyss, where did it go? Am I going to get an automated reply? Did they even look at me? They didn't even get to talk to me, right? So you find yourself getting just so deflated. And then I see people that are like, well, then I'm just going to leave the industry.
We know we don't need people leaving the industry.
No, we want people in it. Like
we need people in it. We need young people in it. We don't need anybody saying I want to leave. We need more people.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'd love to see more ROP programs, more trade schools, like in my own thing, like from the seat that I sit in, looking at this from a really big bird's eye view. There's so many people that came into the industry a different kind of way, but now this younger generation, I'd love to see a lot more people, getting out of a trade school or a college or something and having a CTS or a Crestron certification. And then you can get into all these entry level jobs, because no one knows, like AV, you can really make a wonderful career out of it. It's just sometimes it's hard to figure out, okay, how do I go from, working at a grocery store to being an engineer? Well, you don't. You have to take the steps to get there. And so I always try and tell people, what are you passionate about? Are you technical? Is this something you want to pursue? And I will straight up pitch someone who's super green to a client. You know what I mean? Seasoned or green. There's a story. And it's, if you hire the right character, you can train any skill that you want.
So let me ask you this question, and let's flip this a little bit. Instead of it being somebody that's green, right? What about somebody that when you see their resume, they have obviously worked their way up in their career. They've been CEO, they've been VP of sales, but they might be applying for that regional sales position or that state only sales position. Hell, they may even say, I just want to sit and do inside sales. To a company, they're going to be overqualified, and they probably feel they're going to be asking for too much money. And then they're going to say, why? And they might just go, oh, we're just going to brush past this person.
Oh, so absolutely.
What's your feeling on to companies, or even to someone that wants to do that? Like, because there's always a reason behind it. So I love the fact that you tell the story. So, on the flip side of it, what's your feeling? Like, what should people do if they're just tired or
they need to be put in front of someone, right? And I mean, look, there's a lot of it. This situation just happened recently, so I can say, the conversation that I had with someone is, look, being a business owner, being a partner in a business, having the responsibility of taxes and hiring and this and revenue and how are we going to keep the lights on? Like, there is parts of your life and points of your life where those things are worth fighting for. And then there's other parts of your life where you've been the CEO, you've been the VP, right? And some people have a lot of gas left in their tank, but they just don't want to be in a position of so much authority or responsibility. Or maybe they feel like they can, impact better as an individual contributor doing a regional position, right? And so, yeah, if you're applying for roles and there's no context, you could get passed by because there is a stigma. Can I teach this old dog a new trick, right? Will this person have too many opinions? And you need someone to come back and say, yeah, this person brings a wealth of knowledge and they've done all the different things. They want to take a step back. They're not ready to retire and they want to make a contribution to your company. And you have to look at what your need is and could this person be the solution to that? And you're not going to know unless you have a conversation with them. Because when people are in front of people, the body language, the flow of the conversation, is it fluid? Does the light bulb come on, right?
Right.
How does that happen if you're looking at a piece of paper?
Oh, and it doesn't. And see, and that's what I love, and is the fact that your organization and your company wants to do that. Because and I know that we had when we talked previously, we had talked about that, because it's like, people, you don't know what goes on behind somebody's closed doors, right? Now, what's going on in someone's personal life, 99% of the time won't affect their job, but it may get to a point where it does, and they go, okay, it's affecting and I need to take the step back, but I don't want the stress, right? It could be health related because it's stressful, right? You never know. So I love that the conversation and the storytelling is so important for you all.
I think that, there's a lot of, since we talk to so many different people, right? Men, women, older, younger, millennial, all this in between, right? There's people like, again, I'm going to go back to the phases, right? Like, I spoke to a woman the other day. She's like, I'm an empty nester now. Like, I have a different situation. Before I have, like, my kids are gone. They're, out of the house now. I'm bored, right? That's what our conversation was about. Like, I am literally bored. Put me on a plane. We're not in COVID anymore. I don't have to worry about, that. And so, it was just like, I felt like life come back into her, because it was like a conversation about oh my gosh, my eyes are open. What can I do?
Right.
And I get what it's like to be behind a computer, sending application after application of how can I fit this square peg in a round hole? How can I make sure that I will get an interview for this position, right? Are they going to cross-check my social media? Are they looking at me on LinkedIn? Did they actually read my resume? Or was it that I had the right keywords, right? And so when I had this conversation with this person, it was like, market me everywhere. Can you market me everywhere? And I was like, absolutely. We have a national client base, right? And I don't regionalize things in a way where, if my West Coast recruiter comes to me and says, oh my gosh, I found someone phenomenal in New York, great, let's collaborate with my East Coast recruiter, right? There isn't this like territorial, like, I want to make money off this person and I don't want to give it to this person. And then it takes what we're doing for that person out of the equation. And as I grew, because it used to just be me.
Right.
And I want to help everybody. I want to have conversations with everybody. I also have 3 small children. And, although I am 100% dedicated and I work all hours of the day and night, I try to find like-minded people who represent what values I have, right?
Right.
I tell everyone, you can ask any one of my recruiters, when you are passionate about people, and when you truly help someone make a transition that's right for their family, right for their lives, is helping them progress professionally or personally or financially, right?
Right.
Whatever it is, if it allows them to watch more karate or go to a baseball game or stop living out of a suitcase, that is when you will see your paychecks become bigger than you've ever seen. It is absolutely by helping people get what they want, you're going to get what you want. But you can't do that if you're just like, got you a job, hope you stay there, don't want to hear from you, let me ghost you. Like,
right.
No.
Well, and that's the thing is I think regardless if it's external or even an internal recruiter, right, for a company and the HR department, you have to realize that just because you're talking to that person and they may have applied for that specific position, if you're not asking those just general conversations and just having the conversation, right? My son's 15. Like, I'm like, as long as I've got somebody so he gets out of bed to go to school, because he won't do that. I know him. He'll feed himself. But if I had to go somewhere and travel, he won't get out of bed. But as long as I've got that, I'm the same. I'm on a plane. I can go. I don't care. I'll be gone for a few days, home for a few days. But again, when he was younger, it was different. I had the South Florida, I had the Florida, I had the Florida, Georgia, right? Yeah. And then COVID, and then it didn't matter where because I wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is people see certain things and they say, oh, you live in Florida. Why are you applying for a position in Ohio? Well, you don't, unless you take that initial step and ask, you don't know.
And, this is, again, going back to a very recent hire of mine. I'll share this example because I do feel like it's important for people to hear. So I have a really good client of mine in the Bay, and they came to me and they said, we need a great project coordinator. And of course they wanted someone local because it's always great to have a PC in the office and who's, there to manage. And I was like, okay, don't slap my hand, but I need you to think outside the box here, right? And I've got a phenomenal person in Arizona. And they were like, and I was like, listen, if you don't like her, I will buy you guys a dinner. Like, I will come in my next visit out there, like, I'm buying dinner. So, it is about partnership as well. When you have a great agency working with a great client, like they were like, awesome, put us on the phone with her. Literally had a phone call. 2 days later, had an on-site. The next week, on the following Thursday, she started the job. Right. And I actually just checked in with her last week. And I was like, how's it going? And she was like, I love this job. She said, actually, this is the best placement I've ever had. And then she asked for my address because she's like, I want to send you a gift. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? Like, that's what this is about. It's about, I met her and was like, you're phenomenal. And women in AV are kind of an anomaly, right? So, when you meet someone, like, but it's the outside of the box thinking, right?
Yes.
I might meet you, you're in Florida, but I know somebody that's my client in New York, and they actually are open-minded on somebody living anywhere in the Eastern time zone. Well, then it
Right.
becomes about who's right for them. Or are you just working New York and now you're trying to, farm through who's in New York? But they're
Right.
missing the Jen in Florida. They're missing the Mari, right? But they're missing those people. And so when you get to know your clients really well, sometimes it's our job, and why we get paid is to push the limits on what is your normal practice, right?
Right.
I had to say, I need you guys to think outside the box here, because this person is the right person for this role. And it has worked out amazingly. But that's another step that agency really needs to be better about doing is, how are you at 30 days? How are you at 60 days? How are you at 90 days? Yeah, HR should be doing that, right? And HR should be making sure that their new hire is doing phenomenally. Why?
Right.
For retention, right?
Yes.
But on the flip side of that, your recruiting partner should feel like your confidant, your advocate, some say sometimes I feel like a little bit of a therapist, but it's because we're talking about real life stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And it's taboo. You can't go to your HR person and be like, let me tell you all the things that I found messed up about my last job. Like, that becomes a red flag. Like, you are automatically going to get a little checkbox that you are unstable or something, right?
File it away. Right.
But when you have a good recruiting partner, like, it shouldn't be that crazy. It shouldn't be that taboo. You should be able to say, look, I had a terrible manager. Leadership is important to me. They were working me 80 hours a week. They made these empty promises. This is what my timeline looked like. I went 3 years without a raise. It took a counteroffer situation to find out that I was valuable, right? That's the types of chats that I have. And it's disheartening because I'm an entrepreneur. My road to get here was broken. It was traumatic. There was a lot of love and therapy I poured into myself.
Yeah.
My husband's a GC, right? So he is like construction man of the world. Brilliant, masters, bachelors, but I live with somebody who's in the trenches every day.
Yeah.
I get the lingo. I understand what it's like. I watch, him in certain situations come home and share things with me. And so I know how to relate to people in those scenarios, right? I want to see him be successful. Recently, he got rewarded by his company with a pretty significant bump in pay, and that made him feel valued, right? It's all connected to me. I don't plug into this as it's just my job. Like, I don't start at 8:00, make sure I put a bunch of resumes out and hope that someone gets hired so I can keep the lights on. This isn't about that. I took a call at 5:00 in the morning yesterday. If I'm awake, I've got East Coast hours. I've got people. I want to make sure that people feel heard, right? That it's scary. That I wish I could help everybody. I have a person I've been advocating for, put this person's profile in front of 8 different places. There's been a lot of like tug back and forth. I don't know what the outcome's going to be, but at least I know at the end of the day, when I close my eyes, that I exhausted my efforts and that person felt heard. And what did I tell that individual? I don't want you to stop applying. If you see something, put your name, put it in my inbox, text me. If I have a relationship over there, or if I think I could build a relationship over there, I'll put you in front of that person. If I cannot, don't let me be the stop for you.
Right.
Advocate for yourself. Put your resume through that scary abyss of a portal, right?
Yep.
But also don't let it end there. Cold call into the company. Find the HR person. Look at who the president is on LinkedIn. Look at a peer. If you're a project manager, go talk to another project manager, right? Let me help you find the things that you can't see. But at the end of the day, if I can't get you in somewhere and that's where you really want to be or you want to take a stab for, let me then help you figure out how you can be seen by them.
Exactly.
Because you know what? It's the power of what that does for someone. And then if they end up getting that job and they hear of anybody that needs help, it's the referral that comes back to me. That is the biggest thank you. And that's all I ever need from people, right? I need to know that if I put you somewhere, you're happy. And my vow to you is that if you're not, don't be scared to call me. Don't be scared to send the SOS, right?
And say, help, right? This isn't a
is
fit now.
whack, right? Like, I don't like this place. But that's the sad thing, right? Is because, if you're working with a recruiter, that's where the stigma comes from.
Yeah.
They turned and burned me. They sold me something that wasn't true because they didn't know what it was like over here because they didn't listen.
And I think what I love is the fact that you are attending InfoComm. You are seeing what's out there, talking to the manufacturers, and not just saying, okay, you're going to be my client. This is the position that you fill and the checkboxes, right? I keep going back to that, and I know it sounds like I'm repeating myself, but I think everybody needs to understand how important that is. So then let me ask you this question, because I can say this was a unbeknownst to me kind of thing, because, when I first got into this industry, I, had a referral and picked up the phone and called somebody and said, let me come in and talk to you. This is what I blah, blah, blah. I was under the impression that external recruiters for someone that's looking is a fee.
Oh, yeah.
I would have to pay you to find a job for me.
Sure.
Is that true? Is that not true? Like, what, as the person that's sitting, looking, unemployed, saying, I need a job, but I don't want to call somebody because I don't have the funds to have them look for me? What?
I think what you just said is like what you should highlight reel of this entire conversation.
Yeah.
And I think, and I'm going to explain to you why. So recently, to answer the initial question, there is no fee when you're working with an agency, right? The fees are paid by the client. And why are they paid by the client? It is for the work that goes into identifying and placing the right person. So clients hold the responsibility of the fee.
Mm-hmm.
And, as an agency, that's why it's so important that we vet people, that we get to know people, because we don't want to just make a hire and have a client pay us a
Mm-hmm.
fee and then it doesn't work out, because then nobody wins. And then they don't
Right.
want to come back and use you, right?
Right.
So it's super important that we add value to why you're paying a fee. The thing that I think is good for, the whole AV audience to understand
Mm-hmm.
is this is not something that is abnormal for large companies.
Mm-hmm.
I know that can sound scary. Recently, we had, a communication go through from, an HR representative that was like, hey, just so you know, there's a fee attached. The candidate was looped in on that. And to the candidate, that was scary. Like, oh, they're paying for me. If I do anything wrong, I'm going to be on the chopping block. I understand that is absolutely a valid concern. But in the world of recruiting, when a client signs up with an external agency, that's just business. It's nothing scary. That is saving the client time, because they will do their due diligence. They will post on LinkedIn. They will post on job boards. And unfortunately, they will get hundreds of applications, people from different states, people who are not local, people do not fit the criteria. If it says project manager, every project manager from every industry is going to apply because they didn't read the description. And so the fees are there to save time, to identify the people, to sometimes take people who are gainfully employed and help them broker that leap to their next role. Maybe they're in an associate project manager role. Maybe they've been working that way, doing the job of a senior PM for 10 years, but they didn't get the recognition and they're taking a title change, right? That's should not ever freak anybody out. If a company doesn't want to pay external fees, they hire internal recruiters, right? And if they have an internal recruiter and they have external, that just means they want the best. And they're willing to pay for it, but it is not a candidate's responsibility ever. A bottle of wine, maybe, or
once you get the job, right?
Some sushi at InfoComm, or a good conversation. I mean, anything. Even when I was pregnant, I had some dear friends, and I called dear friends. They sent me a bottle of that alcohol-free tequila, and I just it's the gesture. If you want to do a thank you card, right?
Right.
A LinkedIn recommendation. I'll take that all day long.
Right.
as my thank you, you know?
So just so that we kind of reiterate that, because again, I was in that because I had someone say to me, why don't you reach out to a recruiter or a headhunter? And I'm like, oh my God, that's going to cost me money. And I haven't been working and I need to save like I'm not budgeted to spend this. And they were like, no. And even though they said no, it still didn't sink in because, again, I was unemployed, looking, stressed, worried about all of this other stuff. And even though, again, like I said, they said no to me, there was so much other noise happening.
Yeah.
So let's just kind of define this. Your clients are going to be potentially the manufacturers, the AV integrators, the AV resellers, whatever we want to call them, maybe a distributor. So all of those people that we as the unemployed are applying for, those are your clients, correct?
Yes. And to understand that even more so, fees from agencies are not to guarantee human behavior. We cannot guarantee that hiccups in life are going to happen, or maybe someone oversold something. The fees are for sourcing, time, dedication, understanding, trade shows, being in front of clients, meeting people, everything that goes into making sure that the relationships are then brought together. Mm-hmm. That's what fees are for. It's not to say, hey, I promise you this salesperson's going to make $12 million this year, and then all of a sudden they don't. And then you want your money back. That's not what the fee's for. It's for the work that goes into it.
Right.
So if an agency is charging a candidate, I would frown upon that a little bit.
Right. Well, and I think that that's true because you don't know, right? We don't know, and for so many people that are there. So now let's kind of expand a little bit on, and I know we're going a little bit, but I think this is important. Let's expand upon what you just said about the sales aspect, and you're not guaranteeing, right? So as the candidate that hopefully after people hear this, they go, oh my gosh, I need to reach out to Heidi and I know that she's going to be able to help me because I'm struggling. As the candidate, like you said, you're not guaranteeing a company sales, you're guaranteeing them a vibrant person, a person that you feel is going to be able to fit with their organization, with their company. Am I understanding that right?
Right. And that's the hope, right? Every scenario is different and every company is different. And I think it's important to highlight it's the back end of once somebody starts, how's their onboarding looked? Do they have the proper tools? Are they given, mentorship? Do they have a lifeline to call upon? All of that stuff is going to take the background of the person and make them successful, right? But if you take someone super successful, you might get lucky if you put them in a place and you're like, oh, you're on an island, good luck, right? Like they may succeed anyway because that's, they're a pit bull of sales, right?
Right.
But at the same time, it's like you also want to make sure that their back end is set up and squared away. And I think that what some people should understand about what we do. Yes, we're technology recruiters. Yes, we specialize in AV, but I have a whole in-house HR team, and every client that I vet for us, because I don't contract with everybody. If it's not a right fit, if I wouldn't work there, I'm not going to be able to tell you to go work there, right? If I get a bad vibe, I don't like the way someone spoke to me, the way you treat your recruiter, your mom, the lady at the gas station, the person putting a shopping cart away. If you give me a bad feeling, then I'm not going to sell your stuff, right?
Yeah.
If I feel like you're going to take care of the people I have, then yes, absolutely, we're great, and we're going to be, yoked together to be partners.
Right.
But I also vet who is your back end. Are you doing in-house HR? Because if they aren't, that is another division of my business. We can supplement their HR if they need someone who's well-versed in legal or compliance or need a handbook or anything, or we can be their HR in total. So when I'm communicating with professionals making that leap, if we are doing HR and recruiting for the company, I know they're taken care of.
And I think it's amazing. And I think that for anybody out there that's watching or that's listening, that is looking, whether you are gainfully employed right now or whether you're not. Don't be like I was. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone, send a message, make the phone call to the agency to help you. Now, we know that you don't work with every company, right, that's there, I'm sure, as much as you would probably love to work with everyone. Yes, right? But I'm sure if somebody said to you, these are my top 10, you can help. Or so let's just say that somebody has a top 5 company that they really want to work for, and you've had the conversation with them and you understand, and they're like, no, and those are not your clients. Can you still help them? Will you still give them ideas on what to do? And I know you kind of touched on that, but I want to hit on that kind of again.
I'm all about timing. You come to me, you tell me, these are my prerequisites for making a transition in my life. If it's one of these 5 companies, call me. That's what I want to hear about. Cool. Then I'm going to go knock on the doors of those companies. And if I don't have the ability to get you in, at least I can coach you on how I would do it. Right. So at the end of the day, having conversations with me or anybody on my team, we all collaborate. We talk about everybody who comes through. Right. And so it's one of those things like, and we have a huge footprint. So it doesn't hurt to have a conversation. It doesn't hurt to say, hey, Heidi, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready to pull the plug. I want to voice my concerns to my company. I want to see if they do what's right and put me in a better spot. But if they don't, can we have an initial conversation so that I can understand more about you guys? Absolutely. Right. Yeah. I remember when I very first started in AV, still remember the name. I had a resume put on my desk and I was like, that is a CTSD, like super highly qualified professional. Had a conversation with him and I said, I don't have the perfect thing for you right now. 4 months later, I called him. I had the thing. He's been at the company for 8 years. He's still at the company and he's a principal. So,
that's amazing.
And now we work on a different capacity, right? Because you can start as a design engineer. 8 years later, you're a principal, and then you're coming to me when you need additional support.
Right.
So my whole goal is to help people make that transition for selfish reasons, because I already know you. I know your kids. I know your dog. I know your life. I'm going to see you at Infocom, and now I get to place people on your team. Well, what's better than to say, I know this person?
Yes.
So yes, initial exploratory conversations. Absolutely. Like you can reach us on our website. You can email me directly. I'm very active on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is like my TikTok or my Instagram. Like everybody who has their own thing, like I troll LinkedIn in the morning with my coffee. It's entertaining, right?
Yes.
So, I'm easily found, and I'm happy to help anybody, or at least have conversations and hear out, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
Like, it's not just about what you can do. It's what do you want to do?
And I think that is very important, because I think we get to figure out what people can do, right? We know what they can do. We can see this, right? Especially with everybody that's on social media, but it's the want to. Do I still want to do what I can do? Or do I want to try something that I've never done? And I don't like to say that I can't do, because you don't know if you can't do something, and especially in a job, unless you're given the opportunity to do it. And people need to be given the opportunity to see if they can. And if they fall, I don't like to use the word fail, because I think we fall and we can learn and pick ourselves up. If they fall, then we move them and we all learn.
And I think the last, thing that I'll touch point on is, having someone like myself, or at least how I do things. Sometimes you have to have those harder conversations with companies, and I'm not afraid to. And sometimes they will make a hire that maybe doesn't complement the role that they're in, but why would you get rid of that person? Can you transition that person? And sometimes it takes someone like me, who's an outsider looking in, to say, you hired this person for this, but they have this, and could you put them and maneuver them here before we go looking for someone new?
Right.
And so when I'm asking a candidate, why do you want to leave? I'm touching on all the things that would help keep them from a counter offer situation, as well as when I'm asking a client, what is this role open for? Are you replacing someone? Let's talk about what happened there. Was there anybody internally that you can maneuver into the role, to also keep the client from a 4-month long vetting process. Right. So we try and keep the alignment moving forward because, as you know, in sales or in recruiting, the time in between an initial engagement to an offer letter can kill the deal.
Oh, totally.
So, I would hope out there that more agency would become more people centric, but at least I know every day in mine, I'm putting my best foot forward, and I'm really hoping to leave a positive impression.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have people 10 years later calling me because they trust me. And that is the biggest thank you that I can get. We never, ever send resumes unsolicited. Absolutely no. If I have not had a conversation with you, if I don't know your dog's name, you're not going over there, right?
Right.
And so I want to communicate that, because there's a lot of agencies that'll screenshot things, send it for a timestamp, and then, bang down their clients' doors. I won't do that. Have a conversation with me. I'm about communication. And so, I think that that's important for people to know, because other agencies out there will throw shade on other people because they want to make money. And that's terrible. Yeah. So I hope that this call gives people a little bit more of a inhale instead of an exhale, right? Like let them know, like, there's good people out there that really want to help.
Well, and I think it does, because like I said, you have touched on so many things that I initially had a feeling of, and oh my gosh, I can't do that. Knowing that there is not a fee for somebody that is looking, it is coming from who we are trying to work for, right? As the unemployed or the person looking. Yeah. So Heidi, where can, give us the name of your company again? Sure. Where can we find you? You mentioned social, but what social platforms? Kind of give us all of that so that everybody can find you.
You can find me on LinkedIn. It's Heidi Garrison. My surname, or my maiden name, was Galdos. So, got to keep my maiden name up there. But because that's how some people know me. You can also find me directly from my email. It's just Heidi, which is HEIDI at RGRpartners.com. We are RGRpartners.com. Mm-hmm. So if you want to go that route, you can also do that. And then, if anybody ever wants to text me, I get inundated with phone calls. So my cell phone is always a great way to just shoot me a text if you're looking and you want to carve out time. And that number is just 818-288-1432.
So I'm assuming you will be obviously in Orlando for InfoComm.
I will be in Orlando. Yes.
Awesome. All right. So guys, if you're listening, if I'm sure Heidi will be there, track her down. I will be there. But Heidi, thank you so much for sitting in and chatting with me. I think this was super helpful for anyone that's out there in the AV industry. And to what I always say, you have beautifully explained too that we are all more than words on a resume. So thank you everyone for listening. Listen and like and subscribe wherever you listen or watch. Make sure you check out all of the other podcasts on AVNation Media. And again, thank you so much for joining.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.